Major NBA trade, week 4 NFL football. Price check is next. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Price Check Sports Podcast brought to you by the In the Zone Network, where we go city to city, state to state, worldwide. Got two sports worlds colliding here on today's show. Of course, got to talk briefly about major NBA trades that we saw over the weekend. And then, of course, we got to tap into the world of football. But first, Karl Anthony-Towns, ladies and gentlemen, has been traded to the New York Knicks. A move that kind of came out of nowhere here over the weekend. A trade that is now going to have some major implications across the league. Of course, you saw NBA Media Day happen yesterday. We're recording this on Tuesday, October 1st. And then, of course, saw Media Day yesterday. Every team has now, kind of reported to their respective training camps. And now kind of getting everybody in the building to start preparing for the season. So we did not hear from Karl Anthony-Towns just yet, but we heard from his teammate, Anthony Edwards, who, of course, is a little bit hurt by the trade. But overall, man, I think this is kind of a weird trade, to say the least, where you pretty much have two teams looking themselves in the mirror and saying, hey, this one guy that we have, we got to move on from to either A, keep the chemistry where we need it to be, or B, raise our ceiling. And I think for the Knicks, they're raising their ceiling with this trade. It's not a trade that I necessarily love, but I do like it for them because if nothing else, it's an upgrade for them over Julius Randle in comparison to the fit that you had with him and the rest of those guys that were on the roster. Now, I don't love that they had to give up Dante DiVincenzo in the process, but all in all, I do think this is a win for them in terms of step up. You get a better floor spacer with Cat than what you had with Julius Randle. You do lose a little bit of your wing depth, but at the same time, you now have a center that you did not have before since you had lost Isaiah Hartenstein. Now, where this thing gets really weird is I'm not really sure why the Timberwolves would accept this. You get Julius Randle, yes, to maybe come off of the Karl Anthony-Towns contract for the long term. But short term, this doesn't help your team. Julius Randle, we know, is a ball stopper. He's gonna, jab step, fake, pump fake, all that stuff. He's gonna do a lot of things with the ball and not move the ball. And this should be a time where Anthony Edwards has the ball in his hands a lot. And I just don't necessarily love that fit. I don't love the defensive fit with him next to Gobert and Jaden McDaniels. So it's a weird trade for me. This was a team, Minnesota, where I think we thought they were going to be solidified like top 2, 3, at worst top 4 team in the West. Still think they have that kind of ceiling, but right now that floor is a lot lower not having Cat. And again, his ability to space the floor and the size that he adds next to Gobert. Whereas Julius Randle, he's just not that type of guy. He's going to go get his buckets. He's not going to give you a ton on the defensive end. So jury is still out on how this is going to play out for both teams. But I think the Knicks incrementally better. They were still going to be one of the top 2 or 3 teams in the East. And I don't see that changing for them. But you're still going to have some questions about how Cat is going to respond playing in Madison Square Garden, being in New York, and that media coverage every single day, and just how that might play out not only in the regular season, but for a team that's trying to make a deep playoff run. We saw in Minnesota that he, was part of the reason why they weren't able to get past the Mavericks ultimately. So, interesting trade. We'll see how that plays out, of course, and it gets us back into the swing of things, talking about the NBA. But we'll transition now. NFL Week 4, an eventful Week 4, of course. Some big storylines coming out of it. Now, first, you got 2 unbeaten teams remaining. Minnesota Vikings in the NFC, Kansas City Chiefs in the AFC. Now, the Chiefs, of course, won their game 17-10 against the Chargers on Sunday, but took a big loss in the process. Wide receiver Rashee Rice, as we know right now, fear is that it's a torn ACL for him. Has not been confirmed just yet at the time that we're recording this, but we'll keep an eye out for that. But at this point, they are planning to be without Rashee Rice for the rest of the season. Huge loss for them, a team that was already somewhat thin as far as receivers and pass catchers. Big loss not having Rashee Rice, who had kind of established himself as a safety blanket for Patrick Mahomes here this season, especially while Travis Kelce was still kind of getting into the swing of things. Now, we saw Kelce have his best game of the season so far. 7 catches for 89 yards on Sunday. You also saw rookie Xavier Worthy get into the end zone on Sunday as well. So Chiefs are going to have to, kind of reevaluate what they plan to do offensively here now without Rice. Maybe they bring in another receiver, but ultimately, again, a team that we still expect to be in the hunt when it comes to championship contention, but this is a big blow to their regular season right now, losing Rashee Rice. So you got Chiefs, of course, taking care of business in AFC. Vikings, man, continue to take care of business in the NFC, improving to 4-0, sole possession of first place in the NFC North, which I did not have on my bingo card for 2024, but here we are. Sam Darnold continued to play lights out, 275 yards, 3 touchdowns on Sunday. Vikings look legit, man. I keep saying it every week, but the defense has really locked in. They held Green Bay, even with Jordan Love coming back. They basically held them scoreless for like 3 quarters. So shout out to Brian Flores, defensive coordinator in Minnesota, has that defense humming right now. And this is a team that I think really can be a legit playoff contender when you talk about the NFC, especially given, teams like the 49ers not really playing like they normally have. You got the Lions, of course, in their division with the Vikings. Of course, it's going to be a team not only that we talk about here a little bit later, but a team that is going to put up a challenge to them. But right now, you got a game edge on them in terms of overall record. So Vikings are starting to put some things together, and they look like a formidable team. A team that I think we got to start, wrapping our mind around, maybe potentially making a deep playoff run coming later this season. Now, on the flip side, of course, we got some teams that's looking shaky, starting to buckle under the pressure here. 4 games in, you're looking at a team like the Jaguars. Unfortunately for them, 0-4, and what I think is going to lead to Doug Peterson getting fired here at some point. Now, they had this game against the Texans kind of wrapped up. They were up 20-17 and ultimately let the Texans come back, get a touchdown on their final drive to go ahead and take the game. But this Jaguars team, man, they just look lost both offensively and defensively. And I don't really see where the answers are for them. They're already 0-4. They got a tough divisional matchup against the Colts coming up this week. But if they don't get a win soon, I think Doug Peterson might be the first coach fired, which is crazy to say for a former Super Bowl winning coach. But we have not seen him, whether it be with the Eagles or with this Jaguars team, get back to Super Bowl caliber coaching since then. So looking tough right now for Doug Peterson and the Jaguars. 2 other teams that we weren't necessarily impressed by this week, Jets and the Eagles, 2 teams that we really thought were going to be serious contenders coming into the season. Now, of course, both of them only dropping to 2-2, still at 500 through 4 weeks. But Eagles, tough loss against the Buccaneers. Went down there and got their doors blown off. Now, granted, no A.J. Brown, no Devontae Smith, so they were already limited in what they may be able to do offensively, but it's not like we're talking about a Bucs defense that has just been lights out this season. So, Eagles got some questions to answer moving forward as well. Nick Sirianni, if things don't, turn around fast, he might also be on the hot seat as well. Now, on the Jets side of things, offensively, that it's just not there for them right now. Even with Aaron Rodgers being back, Breece Hall, while he's still doing some things and being a bell cow for them, quietly Braylon Allen looks like a more explosive running back in that backfield right now. And they just are having a tough time moving the ball. And granted, Denver's defense, Patrick Surtain II, lockdown corner, they've been outstanding against the run this season. Denver has played well defensively, but your defense, if you're the Jets, only gave up 10 points. You should be able to win that game at home. They weren't able to get it done, lose 10-9 against the Broncos. Just not the start that you want to get off to, and you already have some rumblings between Aaron Rodgers and head coach Robert Saleh. Robert Saleh, another guy that might need to be looking over his shoulder and wondering whether or not his job may be in jeopardy. So, got those teams, of course, kind of buckling a little bit under the pressure right now. We'll see how they respond in the coming weeks. And then, of course, our night games this week, Sunday Night Football, you saw the Ravens get busy against the Buffalo Bills. 35-10 win for them. Derrick Henry, man, 199 rushing yards, rushing touchdown, 87 yards to kick off the game. He looks like he's in midseason form, already ramped up. This Ravens team, while they struggled the first couple weeks out of the gate, now gotten it back together a little bit, got back to 500, setting up a pretty big matchup between themselves and the Bengals here this upcoming Sunday. A game that I think the Ravens will probably win, especially given how the Bengals have looked on defense They can't stop the run, and clearly you got Derrick Henry and Lamar Jackson to be able to run the ball. In Baltimore, I think the Ravens are going to be able to run the ball down their throat and get a big win in that division this upcoming Sunday. Now, Monday Night Football, of course, the games that we just saw last night, Titans beat the Dolphins. Dolphins without Tua, man, that offense is just non-existent at this point, no matter who you put in, whether it's Skylar Thompson, Tim Boyle, Tyler Huntley, whoever. Offense is just not there for them right now. They're going to have to start kind of looking at what they can do to try to get this thing turned around without Tua, because it's starting to slide downhill really fast for them. Weren't able to win, lost 22-12 against against the Titans last night. A Titans team that had to take out Will Levis and play Mason Rudolph still got to win. So, lets you know everything you need to know about the Dolphins at this point. And then the Lions get a big win, 42-29 against the Seahawks. They move to 3-1. Seahawks, of course, lose their first game of the season, dropping to 3-1. Pretty exciting game. A lot of offense in that one. We'll give a shout out from that game here as part of 3 shout outs in a second. But Lions team, again, starting to find themselves offensively. A little bit of a struggle the first couple weeks, but again, starting around in the shape a little bit and setting up a pretty nice NFC North division battle between themselves and the Vikings, with the Packers not too far behind the pack. So those are all of our tidbits and recaps from this past Sunday. Now, real quick, of course, we gave out some division winner picks at the beginning of the season. Through 4 weeks, want to kind of check in on those. Now, AFC North, we had the Ravens win that. They're currently a game behind the Steelers. Steelers, of course, lost their first game this Sunday in Indianapolis against the Colts. They dropped the 3-1. Ravens now 2-2, so still in striking distance there. Pick the Texans to win the AFC South. They're currently in first place at 3-1 as well. Bills at 3-1 in the AFC East. We had the Jets to win that division. Jets are 2-2, only a game behind, but I'm really not feeling great about that one by looking at the Jets and how they're moving the ball offensively, or how they're not moving the ball offensively. And then, of course, we talked about it. Chiefs 4-0 right now, leading that division. There's nobody else in that division that's going to win it. Let's just go ahead, put a bow on that one. Chiefs are going to take it. Now, in the NFC, we had the Packers to win the NFC North. Right now, they're 2 games behind the Vikings. Vikings, of course, taking the NFC by storm right now at 4-0. Not feeling great about that pick as well, but again, Packers got some time to kind of climb back in it, especially now having Jordan Love back healthy. That's a big takeaway for them this Sunday. And then, of course, you got the Bucs in the NFC South. I guess. I mean, look, I didn't feel great about the Falcons pick to start the season, but Falcons, of course, not far behind. They are 2-2. Still got, a lot of runway to be able to catch up as well. They actually play the Tampa Bay Buccaneers here on Thursday Night Football. So, big division matchup for them this week. Seahawks leading the NFC West at 3-1. My Rams, injuries galore, now down to 1-3. They're definitely not winning the division. As much as I love my team, pretty certain that's not going to happen. So that's out the window. And then, of course, the biggest surprise right now, NFC East, Washington Commanders 3-1, leading that division. I picked the Eagles to win that one to start the season. Eagles, again, still have some time, but the Commanders' offense looks legit. Cliff Kingsbury dialing it up for them on offense right now. Defensively, of course, still a work in progress, but rookie quarterback Jaden Daniels and their offense have had things humming here so far. So, not completely out of the water as far as some of our division picks go, but things not looking quite the way that we thought that they would to start the season. So, now, on the 3 shout-outs for the week. First shout-out, actually, we're taking the college football. Ryan Williams, wide receiver for Alabama. First of all, the young man, we talked about it ad nauseum here all weekend. The young man is only 17 years old, starting wide receiver for one of the best teams in the country, and had himself a day on Saturday against Georgia. 6 catches, 177 yards, and a touchdown. And quite honestly, one of the most epic touchdowns I've ever seen in my life. Catches the ball, hits a spin move on 2 defenders, and just absolutely takes off, closing out the last 25 yards there for the touchdown. And, of course, sealing the win for Alabama on Saturday, a game that we won some money off of. Thank you, Alabama. So first shout-out, of course, goes to Ryan Williams. Second shout-out, we just mentioned the team, but got to mention Jaden Daniels, quarterback of the Washington Commanders. The rookie has been outstanding so far to start the season. We talked about the Commanders now off to a 3-1 start here record-wise. And it's really a lot due to Jaden Daniels and his, stable play at quarterback. He's been efficient, has been completing a high percentage of his passes, and also just not making mistakes. Threw his first interception of the season this Sunday against the Cardinals. But running the ball, he's been able to pick his spots well, not take a whole bunch of unnecessary hits. Has taken some big hits, but still not a whole lot of them. And he's just got that offense with a different dynamic to it. Of course, you see Brian Robinson Jr. running back having some success thanks to having that speed element next to him in Daniels. And even you had backup McNichols get a couple touchdowns this week with Austin Eckler being injured. So Jaden Daniels the biggest culprit for that 3-1 start for the Commanders. So second shout out goes to him. And then third and final shout out this week, Jared Goff, man. I got to give it up to him with 18 for 18 passing the ball last night on Monday Night Football. 292 yards, 2 touchdowns, and then also caught a touchdown last night. So he's got the Lions back to 3-1. And that offense is, again, starting to put it back together and starting to look scary here up in the NFC North. So those are our 3 shout-outs for the week. Now, before we get out of here, got to look ahead to Week 5 in the NFL. Some of our, of course, primetime matchups this week. Thursday Night Football, we hit on it. Bucks and Falcons in Tampa. I'll take Tampa Bay in that one. I think the Falcons, look, they haven't really been able to get Bijan Robinson going the way that we thought. Still have Kyle Pitts on milk cartons right now. Not sure where he's at. I just like what I'm seeing out of the Bucks though right now. Baker Mayfield has been playing well. That offense is picked up where they left off last season. Just a little bit more certainty on the Bucks side of the ball than there is on the Falcons. So give me the Bucks. I do think it's going to be a close one though. The NFC South matchups tend to be that way. So we'll take the Bucks, maybe by a field goal in that one on Thursday night. Now for my money, Sunday's game of the week is going to be Bills versus Texans in Houston. I think I'm going to take the Bills in that one. Of course, coming off of an embarrassing loss on the road against Baltimore, I think they're going to want to get back on track. This is a team, of course, they just lost their first game this week. And a Texas team that has not really looked that great offensively here. Defensively, they've been okay, but offensively, they just have not looked right, or at least not looked as well as they did last year. Now, part of that might just be due to the schedule, playing some tougher competition here to start this season than what they may have played last year. But all in all, I think this Texas team has just been okay. I think Buffalo at their peak has definitely shown that not only can they beat good teams, they can blow them out if need be. Don't see this one being a blowout, but definitely don't love that the Bills are underdogs in this one, especially given what we've seen on the field from both teams so far. So give me the Bills in that one as an underdog pick. And then Sunday Night Football, we have Steelers and Cowboys in Pittsburgh. I think I'm taking the Steelers. Cowboys, of course, looked a little bit better on Thursday Night Football against the Giants last week, but all in all, this is still a team that's kind of searching for itself, still having some trouble running the ball. And I think that Pittsburgh defense is 1,000% legit. Give me Pittsburgh in a close one on Sunday night. And then Monday Night Football, we have Chiefs versus Saints in Arrowhead. And I'm actually going against the grain with this one also. I'm taking the Saints. We'll get to this in a second, but part of my hot take for the week is I think we get all of our unbeatens taken off the board in Week 5. So part of that means the Chiefs have to lose. We also saw Derek Carr with the Raiders a couple years ago go into Arrowhead on a Monday night and win a close shootout with Patrick Mahomes and that Chiefs team. You take a couple, weapons away from Patrick Mahomes right now and his ability, obviously he's great, but no Rashee Rice, no Pacheco. You start to get a little bit limited on offense with them. I think the Saints can not only stay in this one, but they can put up enough points to where it's a little bit difficult for the Chiefs to come back. So give me the Saints in a high-scoring affair on Monday night. Now, of course, we're still struggling with our betting picks for the podcast right now. Last week, we got that over that we asked for in the Washington and Arizona game, but did not get the under that we needed from the Steelers and Colts. Of course, they both put up season highs 4 points in their game. So we're going to go against the grain. We just mentioned it. Going with 2 underdog picks. We just talked about the Saints being our money line pick on Monday Night Football against the Chiefs. I'm also taking the Jets as underdogs against the Vikings in London. Now, granted, you got a Vikings team that has played very well, both offensively and defensively to start the year. You have a Jets team that's struggling a little bit. But guess what? Weird things happen when you play in London. And I'm going with the weird right now. Jets, Saints on the money line parlay for this week, plus 532. That's our only pick. That's all we're going with. We're trying to get back on track. Hopefully the underdogs get it done for us. But that'll do it for today's show, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for all that tune in, listen wherever you're catching your podcast. Again, make sure you like, share, subscribe to us here on YouTube. And until then, till next time, ladies and gentlemen, this is your host, Josh Price. Price Check. Check it out.